Hello, Tech Intersect listeners. This is producer Stephanie Renee with a quick note to say that Professor Evans is enjoying some time away from the microphone this week. So, to close out Women's History Month, we're shining a spotlight on what originally aired as episode 91, our conversation with Sterling Schuyler, who shared her picks for some outstanding women in crypto. And we'll be back with more original content soon.
Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future. Because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I welcome Sterling Schuyler to the show. Sterling is a content and copywriter for emerging fund managers and crypto enthusiasts. She writes blogs, articles, reports, newsletters, and other content for thought leaders so that their target audiences can find them and learn from them. And I invited her on the show to talk about one of her latest articles that highlights amazing women in the crypto space and how that list has and continues to grow. Exciting times to be sure, and times that confirm that we are in fact here and we're all going to make it. Now, before we hop into the ep, please take a moment to follow this podcast and then like, share, and comment so that others who would benefit from this content can find it. Okay, it's time to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I welcome Sterling Schuyler to the show. Sterling is a content and copywriter for emerging fund managers and crypto enthusiasts. And I invited her on the show to talk about one of her latest Substack articles. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think it was on Medium. I think it was Substack, but she'll tell me in a second. The article highlights amazing women in the crypto space. I am slightly biased because in the spirit of full disclosure, I'm actually named on this amazing list, which is even more amazing. But I also admire her work, her passion, her commitment to amplifying the excellence found in historically marginalized spaces, especially in the worlds of entrepreneurship and crypto. We'll talk about all of that and more in a moment. But first, Sterling, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is so cool to be on this side of the podcast.
Right. Actually, that's right. We'll talk about all the awesome things that you get to see behind the scenes with one of our favorite people in the world, Arlen Hamilton. But first, your origin story, the story that leads to what you are doing now as an entrepreneur and also particularly in the crypto space.
Sure. I would say it all started way back in 2019.
Okay. Way back.
Which really feels...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Please, right. It's 10 years ago.
Yes. Back in the day, I attended a conference. No masks.
Oh my God. In person. I can't imagine a world, but it's fine.
And I attended this panel hosted by the Next Women. It was the Next Web conference. And the panel was about the fact that it's really important to encourage female founders and underrepresented founders to grow, to succeed in business, this, that, and the other. But it ultimately doesn't matter if we don't also have those same underrepresented people writing the checks.
Right.
And that to me was such a mind-blowing statement that just seems so obvious to me now.
Right.
But when I heard that, that's when I just really changed my journey from just being like a content creator and marketing consultant, dabbling here and there as a freelancer, to saying like, okay, this is what I want to do. And so I started reading more about the industry, about venture capital, which is how I came across Arlan Hamilton, of course. Mm-hmm. And then at that same time, I was also learning about crypto. I was working for a fund here in the Netherlands where I live. Mm-hmm. And so I was reading a bit about it, and I wasn't really into all the like Elon Musk to the moon, right. It just like that was not appealing to me, and the kind of bro culture around that. And like the first thing that I saw in the potential for crypto is the potential to help immigrants and refugees adjust to their new homes, to be able to spend money and to start incorporating themselves into society without waiting to open a bank account and go through that whole process. But I felt like I wasn't finding a lot of information about these kind of real world applications of crypto. Right. And I know now, like, people have been writing about that, but that's not the sexy news, you know? Right. It's not what people want to talk about. And then in 2020, I came across Tavania Evans' work with Guapcoin. And to me, that was the first crypto that was like, yeah, this is what crypto can be. Right. And I've been working with her a lot as well. I just think that her work is incredible, and such a great story of a Black woman who has bootstrapped her way through this industry and just stays true to her mission and her community. The amount of time that she puts into building her community and educating people about crypto is just so admirable. So
absolutely. First of all, because we share a last name, we had to know each other, right? And then Black women in the space. And then learning more about Guapcoin and the vision. Thousands upon thousands of people have a vision, but the ability to actually implement it over time with, a real servant's heart, like showing up for the space and really appreciating the community aspect and the importance of it in crypto. She doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. So I'm fully on board with you with that respect.
So I connected with her, and I did an interview with her for, I think it was the Women in Tech Network. And then from there, I just kept finding communities, finding content. I think Arlan Hamilton's Academy came out around that time, and then your course is in it. And so I started listening to your podcast, and it just kind of kept building. And then from there, I was always really timid about saying that I know anything about crypto. And like I bought my first coins at the beginning of this year, like January 2nd, 2021.
Nice. Not a bad time. Not a bad
time. And so this year was like another big year for me, just getting to like being in it and trying to have conversations with people about it. And I remember around like February and March talking to some friends who were like, I see that you talk about crypto sometimes. Can you explain to me what's going on? And so I'd talk about like I'd go through that whole same story and I'd explain my experience. And at the end of that conversation, my friends, who were mostly women asking me these questions, would say, wow, I've never heard anyone talk about crypto like that, in a way that isn't trying to push investment advice or prove to you I know everything about crypto. And again, like this bro culture that seems to be so ingrained in so many communities. And so that's when I really started connecting with more women that are on that list that I wrote. And I found that it's actually not that hard to connect with, women in the space, with Black women in the space, if you just take the time to look. I don't know. It just doesn't seem hard.
Yeah, because so many people say the technology is there. It's for everyone. Bitcoin is the people's money. What are you talking about? What are you worried about? And it's like, the intentionality that is required to ensure that things aren't just open, but they are accessible in a meaningful way. This is,
Yes.
it can be very challenging. Some aspects of it, sometimes I say it's simple, but not easy. And other times this is like wicked challenging in many respects, right? It's like tech, already challenging, finance, equally challenging. And then they had a baby and crypto was born. And so what are we to expect about really being intentional about getting people in the space in a way that makes it, demystifies it and makes it accessible? So how do you talk about crypto when folks are like, you don't appear to be crazy? This happens to me all the time too. Like, you don't appear to be crazy. And I don't think you've lost, senses or faculties. And so I trust you. And people say this to me all the time. In the same way, I know that they approach you. How do you begin the conversation to explain to women, the power and promise of crypto generally, maybe Bitcoin in particular? But how do you do that? I
usually start with asking what they already know.
Good question, Professor. The professor in me honors the professor in you. I like it.
Well, maybe that's how it started, was like listening to your podcast and listening to the way that you talk about it. That I don't have to be evangelical about it to make people passionate the way that I'm passionate. And depending on what people are interested in or what aspects of crypto that interest them, there are different things. For example, something I've learned is that there are some people who are really passionate about the privacy aspect.
Yes.
And the different privacy-oriented projects. And then there are other people who really love like the use case of it. And so they're more interested in in BCH and Dash. I'm starting to learn a little bit more about the Lightning Network.
Yeah.
And how that all works. And I guess that's the other thing, is admitting that everyone is always learning all the time because everything is moving so fast. And that's a reason I decided to tweet about my issue trying to buy an NFT.
Yes.
That's it's so, what was it that you just said? That it's simple, but it's not easy.
But it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
Right. Simple, but not easy.
Yeah, I follow the steps, and yet something keeps going wrong. And trying to troubleshoot that on my own, which is somewhat empowering to see what financial sovereignty looks like in that way.
Yes.
That I really have to be in charge of everything that happens, and I have to educate myself on how it works. But that doesn't make it any less frustrating.
Absolutely. You see, if you get people, I don't start with the technology, right? I start with the vision, just like you're saying. So if you figure out people's point of view and what is most interesting to them in life in general, because that's how I had my own rabbit hole experience back in 2017, 2018. It's like, I don't know about this magic money. Not quite sure where it is, who it is, why it is, but this technology is interesting. And it was around the same time as this conversation, blockchain, not Bitcoin. I think the price had kind of flattened a bit, and the sensationalism, as you said, and the sizzle around it dissipated. So that was a great opportunity for people to focus on building instead of holding, or biddling instead of hodling, but whatever, it's fine. Right?
Yes.
But that rabbit hole experience was like, okay, I'm an IP lawyer and law professor. I had focused my entire career at the axis or the intersection of technology and the law, specifically with intellectual property, super specific, right? But this new technology has a lot of impact on digital ownership and copyright, and the difference between an open source software layer and the things that are built on top that people want to propertize. So I wanted to figure that part out, and also to empower law students to be able to do that. The future wave of lawyers was really exciting to me. So I found my lane, and then I took a deep dive into that. And it sounds like you did the same thing. We can't know all the things about all the things, but we can take our existing expertise and double down on that and see how the technology will, the evolution in our particular space, or the revolution, which is what I'm focused on. So does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. And that has been my experience. When people say that Bitcoin is for everyone and meow, 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 that that's to me where that is very important, that anyone can enter the space and ask questions and learn and really dive into it, knowing that everyone in the space is new.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean it's easy to try and find the information and understand it and also feel comfortable asking questions. And that's why I find a real drive and a real passion for writing about crypto and writing for crypto enthusiasts, for crypto businesses and funds, because they obviously want to educate more people about it and want people to get involved, but not everyone can write that way. And so that's, where I
that's definitely a gift. That is your gift zone. That is your ministry. So let's talk about that, because I was so excited, not just because I'm on it, but because it's like, yes, the answer to where are all of the women in crypto? And this happens all the time. You get it as well. And that lit a fire under you to say, okay, let's stop with the questions and focus on the solutions. So talk to me about your article and this question that because evidently by this question, there's so few of us, like where can we find them? Talk to me.
We're hiding under rocks,
Clearly. And in binders. Evidently we're in binders.
It was like, I don't know, 3 weeks of just every other day I'd see someone saying like, tell me about your favorite women in crypto, or who are some women in crypto that I can talk to? And by like the 5th time, I was like, I just gotta create a list, because I keep tagging everybody, but I want to talk more about what everybody does. And it was difficult because I wrote the list of the women that I know the best, or that I've known for the longest. And I knew that there were women I was leaving off, but at some point I was just like, I got to publish it, because then once it's published, I'll get even more information from people. And that's exactly what happened, was that I sent it out into the world and I started getting emails back from subscribers saying like, oh, you should look into this person and that person. And people were commenting on the tweets to say, oh, you should definitely look into this person. And the other thing I realized was that most of the women that I wrote about are, I would say, more in the crypto space. But there are so many other women and artists in the NFT space, and that deserves a list on its own too. And so after I published that, I've got like 50 million other ideas and of lists and things I want to publish and collate. Cause I'm just, it's strange to me on one hand that people keep asking these questions.
Right.
It's like, I see where all the information is. Why don't you see it? But on the other hand, it's like, okay, I have access to all this information, and for whatever reason, these other people don't. So I'm going to try and help them find it.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of Tech Intersect. Our conversation will continue in a moment, but first, a word on an exciting opportunity.
There's a more cost-effective and time-efficient way to reach your leading-edge learning and earning goals, to put you ahead of the stiff competition in this fast-paced, tech-driven economy. You need skills, credentials, and a fast track to a competitive advantage. You need it now more than ever, and I can help. The Advantage Evans method puts you ahead of the curve with condensed, comprehensive online courses, curated content to leverage your current skills and expertise, live coaching, networking opportunities, and more. Upcoming courses include From Cash to Crypto to help you buy your first Bitcoin, and there are 2 ways to get your advantage. Advantage Evans Encore gives you maximum experience for your total competitive advantage and access for 1 year. It includes a live welcome and modules on terminology, buying and selling, exchanges, mining, earning crypto, trading and investing, and also several of the legal issues you need to know in order to be safe and secure as you enter this space. That includes tax compliance, how to plan for a Bitcoin estate, and securities laws to make sure you avoid any legal unforced errors. Now, Advantage Core gives you the essentials. It's a short course to give you what you want and the support you need to buy your first crypto in as little as 3 weeks, with access to the information and replays for 3 months. And if you're not quite ready for your Advantage and want a sneak peek to try before you buy, then register for a free masterclass where I share my Crypto 101 success checklist and cover current hot topics in crypto. So there truly is something for everyone, including you, to get in on the fast track and learn and earn in the digital economy. Visit AdvantageEvans.com to get started. That's AdvantageEvans.com.
And now, back to the conversation.
Yeah, that makes me think a lot of Arlen's journey too, right? So thinking about how she wrote in It's About Damn Time. That she was, she's invested in being the bridge between the bro culture in the VC space. And it's like, we have all this money, if only we could find these people. And Arlen's like, are you serious? What is, and then just stop asking the question. She's like, you know what? I found a space where I can build the bridge between the money and the people who need it, and not just need it, deserve it and do the best with it. Do so much more with so much less, and the proven success of Backstage Capital. Talk about your thoughts about the excitement of what she's built as a conduit to this conversation about truly what you are doing. You're super humble, so you're not even going to like what I'm about to say. But the fact that you're providing that type of bridge in the same way you just described between the binders and binders of women and other historically marginalized people and those who are, I'm actually happy that they're actually asking the question, because there are a whole group of people not even asking, right? So talk to me about that, being a bridge.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I am very humbled that you would say that about me. Thank you. But I don't know if I ever would have thought to do this had Arlen not done something like this already. I mean, she has really broken down doors so that the rest of us can not just get funding, but to also be empowered to be a bridge in other aspects of our lives, or in this new frontier that we're entering. She's been a huge inspiration for that, for sure. And pulling together all the people in the academy, bringing together so many different, I know that there's a lot of great course content out there, but what she's curated is such a phenomenal amount of work and just such quality, like yourself. I mean, the content, the information that you provide, it's just so easy to listen to. And, you are also building bridges between people who don't have this financial education or this legal background and making it really accessible. Thank you, Arlen, for helping us with that.
Thank you, Arlen. Love it. So talk to me about what you learned in the process of putting your list together. You've talked a bit about what happened after, which is equally, if not more important, because of the treasure trove of information that you continue to have. But talk to us about maybe some of the folks on the list, or just what you learned in the process.
Oh, good question. Because it's always about what happened after I published it. I think what I realized when I was compiling the list, like when I really had to decide where am I cutting it off, and asking myself, what is the value that this list provides beyond, like, I wanted it to be more than just a list of tagged names.
Right.
And so trying to explain not just the value that they provide, or like the service that they provide and who they are, but then also explaining the value that I see in that work. Because again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with these conversations we're having with people who are new to the space. Like, yeah, I could list 10, 20, 50 different people that they should follow on Twitter or Instagram or what have you. But to explain why they should follow them and also the content that they create. Right. For example, with your work, if people are interested in learning more about the legal side, knowing how to do things correctly, and really get that kind of basic foundation, they should listen to your podcast and enroll in your course. Another woman, Eleanor Blanc, she also offers like a crypto 101 course, but it's a bit more casual, really easy and accessible, in a way that's she like hosts it once a month, and then afterwards she does an in-person networking drinks. Nice. So it's just, meeting different needs or different interests for people. And so in the article, as I was writing it, I was working on making sure I properly summarized what each woman does, but then also explain why I find their work valuable, and why I want people to know about them. And of course, what made that really difficult is that I had to choose. Like, I had to decide which women to include. But what's wonderful about the internet and online publishing is that I can publish another list.
How about that?
Which I definitely plan on doing. Yeah. So. Yeah,
because there's so many aspects of the space, right? We've already identified the NFT space, or someone might be well-versed in securities or the tax implications, or for me, intellectual property, or the simple onboarding of how do I vet and set up a wallet and an exchange account. What does that even mean? There are over 13,000 different types of coins and tokens at this recording. By the time some people listen to it, it'll be in the 14,000s and beyond. So, and my passion, I know for you, it's just empowering people with the right information so that they can make the next right choice. I'm having this weird thing happening to me now with, I don't know if it's bots or what has happened, or you just get some critical mass of just enough public attention where there are fake accounts being created about me, these impersonators on Instagram. It's like,
I saw that.
What is happening? Yeah. Are you crazy? It makes me even more committed to ensuring, just so we're all clear, I do not sell crypto. I do not give investment advice. I do not take anyone's money. I have no interest in doing that. I'm not a broker dealer. I am an educator. And my whole role and responsibility is to make sure that people have the right information. Why I spend so much time curating the information in the same way that you are curating this list to give people easy access to information so that they can DYOR. Do your own research, but do it in a way where you know that it's, and you know how I roll, safe, legal, and compliant. So I know that you are focused on that same thing, to give people access and an opportunity to go beyond what you've done. You're like, I might be the floor, but I'm not the ceiling. Like, go forth and conquer, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Talk to me about your services. So we've talked a lot about the crypto side in your list, but I'm wicked interested in the services that you provide to write this compelling content for people. And I'm taking notes. I'm like, why haven't I hired Sterling? What? I don't know what's wrong with me. As you were talking, I was like, I need that. That's amazing. She's amazing.
Oh, well, good to hear.
So let's go. Talk to me.
So I write blogs and articles. I do a lot of email newsletters. I've done a couple white papers. It's usually the things that people know are important to put out there to make sure that they make a name for themselves, or that they have these opinions on things, but they just don't have time to write it themselves. Or, like I was saying earlier, they're not as confident in their ability to write in an accessible way. And so that's really where I come in, is processing all this information and then regurgitating it in a really beautiful way.
Let's go. Come on. You all can't see her yet. I'm going to turn this eventually into a video pod. But for now, she literally lit up. All corners of my computer just lit up when she was saying that. So she's, again, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. This is her ministry. She's here on this earth And maybe eventually she'll take a rocket into space and do it as well. But she is here for such a time as this to do this really, really important work. Tell people how they can connect with you and learn more about you and your work.
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, just Sterling Schuyler, Schuyler. And you can find me on Twitter at @StirSchuyler. And I'll probably show up if you look at anyone who's tagged the professor, I'll probably show up there a lot.
Let's go. Let's go. Yes, we are forever linked in those Twitter streets. I adore you. I knew before we even had this conversation, and then this just sends it over the top. So this is the first conversation, but definitely not the last. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. And thank you for trusting me and also amplifying everything that I'm doing. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much to Sterling for sharing your time, your talents, and your commitment to amplifying excellence in the fundraising and crypto spaces. Now, listeners, in what ways can you become a bridge between disconnected communities to ensure innovation is inclusive? Whatever that is, whatever your area of expertise, take a deep dive and make sure you lift as you climb. Because we're all going to make it, as long as we all do our part. Before we sign off, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this episode and this podcast with your networks. Follow me on social medias and let me know what topics you'd like to hear more of and who you want to hear from. All right, that's all for this episode. Until next time, continue to shine.
Stay in touch with host Tanya Evans via your favorite social media. On Twitter at Tech Intersect. And on Instagram via the handle Tech Intersect. This podcast has been produced by Stephanie Renee for Soul Sanctuary Incorporated.